Do a double tap. Like a boss. Alright, so there's the front can of that resonator completely soaked in oil. There's the pan, the floor pan, pretty much behind this front rail. There's the resonator, that's completely soaked in oil. And it just goes on back. Amazing what a little air will do when you're driving. Luckily it wasn't that far of a distance. And the engine wasn't making any weird noises when I stopped and parked it. So I may have gotten lucky and not have ruined the engine. But I've read an account online early this morning when I woke up about a woman who actually had the TSB service performed. They replaced the line, and then 16,000 miles later the replacement line burst and completely destroyed her engine because she was driving on the highway at the time. Engine lost all of its oil probably in about 15 or 20 seconds. Engine just seized up on her. So I'm just going through and wiping the oil down where it's going to get in my way for this inspection. But it's this rack was completely clean when I started, and yeah, what a mess. So we're gonna crawl up under the front there, take a look. Somewhere between that front subframe, that engine cradle frame, and on the right side here is going to be a burst line somewhere. I'll show you when I find it. No, there's nothing here to rupture, no gaskets, so I'm pretty sure it's a hose, because this whole side of the engine from here over is just wet, and you see it goes all the way back to the back of the car, just from that very short distance of driving. It got blown back there. Also, when it was up on the tow truck, it was still dripping oil. There's oil all in the back of my rim. These rotors need to get some brake cleaner on that. Got to take the front wheel off, get that all cleaned up in there. Suspension's all oil soaked. Alright, I'm having a hell of a time finding this leak. I'm pretty sure it's a component on the engine dealing with the variable valve timing. It's hydraulically actuated with engine oil. So it's going to be on the actual engine itself, but you can see the serpentine belt is just soaking wet. You can see that. It's just absolutely dripping off that pulley. Belt is wet. That belt needs to be replaced. But there's no cooler line running off the engine. I thought it was an oil cooler running off the block, and there's no block cooler. So it's not an oil cooler line that ruptured. It's definitely a component right off the top of the engine. The only thing I can think is come up top here. And if you look down there, where is it? Where is it? There it is. Look, back up, there it is. So you see that that tube, it runs down underneath that plastic cover. Well, that plastic cover goes down about halfway down the block, so I think it ruptured underneath there. Because if you follow that tube up, it comes to here, okay, and that is on the valve cover, and it looks to be in line with one of the cams. So I would imagine that's probably the VVT-i actuator, and it's hydraulically actuated, and this is the end of the line. The beginning of the line is down in the block somewhere under that cover. Anyways, just getting in and down there is almost impossible. You've got a dog bone joint here that's a upper engine stabilizer quasi mount. It's probably more for vibration and mounting, but this dog bone goes to here. So I'd have to take this off and get this out of the way, which is fine. There's an engine cradle down on the one side. Transmission, it's a transverse mount transmission. It's going to be on the other side. So I should be able to loosen this up and take this off without any effect on the engine. Alright, so before I take this bracket off, I just wanted to show you how dumb engineers can be when it comes to not giving any thought to either a mechanic's work or, in my case, a shade tree mechanic's work. I'm going to have to pull this whole bracket off just to reach down in there and get to the bolt I want to get to, but you see this bolt here that was holding the dog bone in, this basically stabilizes the top of the engine. Well, this came right over to the brake line. Luckily the brake line's a little bit pliable. It's got some flex to it. Didn't bend it anywhere, I just kind of flexed it out of the way. But that line very easily, if you follow it, comes along the top here and comes down into right plus here. This is the ABS module. This is what pumps your brakes for you when you slam on the brakes with an ABS car. Anyways, this line could have very easily come and gone down underneath there. Alright, and been completely out of the way of this bolt. But it seems like they wanted to put it right in the way. And then obviously I got to take this bracket off, so that's all done. In order to do that, I wanted to put a little bit of support under the front of the car, so the jack has been repositioned underneath. There's just slight upward pressure on the bottom of the oil pan, which isn't the optimal place to do that, but there. Now that'll pull out. I can access that bolt. There we go. That bolt right there. Couldn't reach it because the bracket was in the way. So now I got to get that bolt and the one in the back. You can see that one. Those two bolts should remove this plastic cover. Now they were nice enough to also double the plastic cover onto the top of the valve cover, and it doubles as a tie down strap point for one of these wiring looms. I don't know if that can be seen on camera. I can't see it through the viewfinder well enough to zoom in for you, but there's a wiring loom that goes into this plastic piece, comes up and rakes over the top of the valve cover, and right here on the top there's a wiring loom hold down point, so I'm going to pop that off. Alright guys, we're one step closer. This is the back side of that shroud. I just need to disconnect, if we can see that on film or camera there in that frame. A little sliver of sunlight is shining on the clip that retains a wiring harness. I got to undo that clip and I'm be able to fish this out of here, but on the back side of this is soaking in oil. So I think I pinpointed the problem. It was my suspicion that it was the TSB item, so I just need to get visual confirmation of the bottom of this tube. You can see the tube now. You can see where it comes out of the banjo joint, goes through the hard line into the soft line right there, and then the soft line goes down. I can't see where it goes because this is in the way, but you can see the oil. That just, it's like kind of like a sponge. Alright, look at this. Look at that. So that's definitely the point of origin. No doubt whatsoever. So this is the TSB. That is the hydraulic actuator for the VVT-i cam timing. But there is a replacement part for it. It is a known issue, and if you've got a V6, 3.5 liter V6, the engine code is actually stamped here on top of the engine cover. It's the 2GR-FE. If you got one of those engines, your VVT-i hydraulic tube is prone to rupture. And for me it happened at 58,887 miles on the odometer and 6 years in. So for me it happened when I was backing out of a parking space and the wheel slipped. You're gonna smell burnt oil, and in this case it was used oil at about 4,500 to 5,000 miles on it. It's about ready for a change, and it smelled a lot like gasoline. So if you smell a gasoline-ish used oil burning smell, just be aware that you need to keep an eye on your gauges. Mine never came on. The low pressure light never came on. At least I didn't notice it. If it did come on, I might not have noticed it because I was driving so slow between the two points of where it occurred to where I ended up noticing that the oil was dripping from underneath the car. Drove about a mile, maybe a mile and a quarter to a mile and a half, somewhere in that range. Definitely less than 2 miles. And it's a shopping center, so I was driving really slow. I don't think I got over 30 miles an hour, so hopefully there's no engine damage. But if there is any engine damage, I shouldn't necessarily have to pay for any repairs, just because this being a known TSB without a recall, this is on Toyota. This is an engineering issue for sure. But I gotta get this thing out of here and get some of this oil out of it, and let's start by popping that little clip that is the wiring harness retainer that's on the shroud. So, alright guys, shroud is out. It is here's a clean rag. Put it face down and step on it. That is definitely the point of origin. There's so much oil soaked into this foam. Not even funny. No oil up here because it all pretty much shot down. This sits on the engine like so, on the top. Alright? And all the oil contamination was basically down the engine on that side. So this is definitely the point of origin. And if we come over here and take a look at the setup, it's very hard to see. It's very hard for me to get light on here. See if the flashlight will actually put some light on here. Any better than what I'm seeing. The sensor on the camera is going to be an issue. There's 4 bolts holding in a plate on the side of the head there. Actually, that's the side of the block. The head is up here. Okay, those are valve cover bolts. I got the light on right there. Come down here, this is the block. Got oil pressure coming from the block. Back of, there's a tube in the far back. I don't know if you can see that. Right there, I got the light on it. And it comes back across the front of the head into the valley area. Comes up the rubber tube and then into the banjo joint over here on the valve cover. So something in that lower assembly burst and just gave out. I don't know if it's the actual hose, that rubber hose, or the back where the tube goes in. I can't see it from the front or the back. I'm gonna have to get up underneath the car and get up, you know, do my best to try to get eyes on that, but can't do that and hold the camera at the same time. So definitely the location of the failure, and it's definitely the TSB item. I'll notate that in the video description for other owners in case they experience something similar. But hopefully Toyota stands behind their product and fixes this. This could have been a lot worse. This could have happened to me on the highway, and if I weren't paying attention and didn't notice the pressure light, this thing would have drained itself in no time flat on the highway. You know, less than a minute, the whole engine would have been void of oil, because that pressure is coming up from the block. And if that, you know, ruptured on the highway, could have caused a major accident with all that oil on my tire. Not just me, but people behind me driving. Very slick condition. You know, worse than ice, or just as bad as, you know, black ice. So I think it's a safety issue. I honestly think there should be a recall. Alright guys, so I am going to confirm that it is coming from that hose. So I got my buddy in the car, my neighbor, good friend. Anyways, I topped off the engine oil. It only lost 2.5 quarts, almost 3 quarts, so not too bad. Not too bad, about half the oil. This takes about 6 quarts, but it should be squirting from there. I'm going to try and save the camera. Alright, let it go. Yep. Spitting out of there. Misting anyways. Can't see exactly where it's misting from. That could just be the belt. Kill it!
Alright, so what do we got?
Alright, so you can see all of that oil on the side of the block there. If I can see what the heck I'm looking at. The sun is really brightening my eyes. Right there on the side of the block. See all that drippage right down there?
See it?
It started misting. I think that was from all the shit on the belt, and it just started.
How about now? Can you see it better?
Yeah, thank you. So that's it. There's a hole in the side of that rubber tube.
That's all it is.
Yeah, and there's an actual customer service
this
bulletin
portion right here?
Yep, on the back side of it. There's a small hole somewhere. I looked with the mirror and I couldn't see it. I had the flashlight in the mirror up in here. But there is a customer service bulletin on it. I never received it in the mail. I just printed it off online, and it said that you can bring it in anytime before March 31st, 2013 and have it replaced for free. So we'll find out whether or not they'll honor it, because I never received anything in the mail. Alright, this ought to be interesting.